mute, but he left in my defense.
Yeah, I didn't know what you needed to add, but I could tell. Like, I didn't know how to describe it, but it looks really good. I like the colors you got going. Gives me a wintry feel.
Doesn't it?
Butterfly dragon.
Butterfly in the sky.
It's almost
My
like
voice is not
a
quite so
depiction of like
high.
It's almost like a depiction of like a Chinese dragon because there's some adaptations where they have the horns like that,
Yeah.
or like a fey dragon.
The whole premise of this was like spring butterfly dragon thing, and like maybe they live in a forest. I don't fucking know. I just look the artist who posted this base. I was like, I have to buy it now.
Like as I
Welcome to
said,
the
it's not
Bears
that I
podcast.
don't want him around, it's just he can be too much sometimes, so I have to do it for my sanity.
Welcome to the Ferris podcast. Today's episode, we discuss art. How's everyone doing today?
Is this the start of the?
It might have started like a minute or two ago, and I just didn't say
All right.
anything.
What
you
the
guys-
fuck?
Y'all said nothing bad, so you're good.
God, Sam,
Ah.
I was talking about casual racism and competitive racism before. You gotta give him a guy a warning.
Look! We're gonna practice this later, okay? After stream. Mikey, congrats on first.
Racism or practicing to timing?
Yeti, congrats on second.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good question.
I didn't. I'm not prepared. You
Duck,
have to give me
congrats on
warning, Sammy.
Yeti, get back to work.
Sam, why do you do this to me? You know I hate that.
Because it's funny. I personally find it funny. But hello, everyone.
Lagging.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are ya?
Alright.
I don't know what I
What's the
say.
weather we're having?
Introductions.
Yeah, those things.
Welcome to Adventures in Paris.
These nuts in your mouth. Got him.
Fucking asshole. I'm gonna buy my food.
Look, I've been off one of my specific meds for like a couple days now, so my brain's not all there.
You were out of it, was it yesterday? Or the day before when I was talking to you? Oh, yeah, it was yesterday because we were trying to solve the VR chat thing.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday I was also... Was I? Yes, I was still high yesterday.
Yes, you were. You told me so.
Yes.
What's a brain?
It's one of those gooey squishy
Brain.
things in your head. Usually it has wrinkles. Mine doesn't today.
Oh, thank God. I thought it was a tumor.
Doc, I might want...
All right,
you might want to get that checked out. Also, for those of
You know what? That explains a lot.
Those of you who haven't caught on yet, after last session, I got sick, so this is my voice for today. Yay!
Nope. No singing.
No singing. Unless you want to hear this.
You know, if you're not feeling good enough, we don't. Nah, whatever. We're already here.
No, I'm like, physically I'm fine. Mentally, I'm almost there. My voice is the only thing that's really bothering
You're
me.
fine, and you're mentally half here. I don't have either of that.
Damn.
I felt that.
Fucking bird brains.
We're all bird brains today.
Does that
anyways.
count as actual
Call me.
racism?
Anyway, introductions.
Yeah, welcome to Ferris.
Hi, I'm
Sim-
Mordred, you're on hiatus Kitsune. Paying the lovable yet scary fox mom.
She went before even Sam did this time.
Sure, you interrupt me while I'm trying to do it. Why don't you?
Well, introduce yourself then.
Hold on, I'm giving more a shout out. If I could spell canon correctly. Hello everyone, I'm Sammy.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Pixel Doctor. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello everyone, I'm Sammy, your variety VTubing cat. You can't hear anyone else from the Discord call right now because I turned off desktop audio. Yeah, I did that. Ha! I know you didn't, but I decided to do it anyways. Shush. Okay, we heard from Mordred. Who the fuck is next?
I guess I might
Or
as
do
well go because I'm
popcorn.
interrupting you. Oh, true.
I'm sorry, what?
More just popcorning to someone.
Yeah, Mordred. Who the fuck is next?
Who are people?
Who are these people?
I don't know. I asked first.
Oh, right. I should probably come up with an answer for that.
Mordred's done dilly disappeared.
There's two people in front of you. One of them is a bird. The other one is a small halfling named Doki.
Aw.
Need what?
Doki.
Doki?
Doki.
Doki Doki?
Yeah. It's a bird and someone named
Like-
Doki.
Like a lovebird.
Sure.
And like that, Doc gets disadvantage on every roll.
Right.
Ah.
What did I do?
Anyways, Doc, go next.
I don't know.
Oh, well, we're just typing something. Maybe she's
Over interrupting Sam.
bit of a delay there. Anyway, I'm the Pixel Doctor. I'm playing Octa the Kobold that everybody loves. Go Mikey.
Hi, I'm Cosmos Keeper, aka Karen, and I play Caress, the Air Cocker Druid. Bro. Go.
You what I do? My name is Kitty Makoto. I play Arlos, the Hexblade Warlock. And today, what the fuck do we have going on today?
Well, you see, we don't
Boss
have a
fight,
Yeti
right?
going the fuck on. He's out for the first couple hours, so we're gonna be without him physically or verbally. He's not here today.
He's trying to ascend to Super Saiyan Turtle 2.
Yeah, that thing.
You can blame it all on me.
I already do.
Come back. Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah, besides the Yeti not being here, does anyone else remember what happened last week?
We descended further into madness.
That's not what
Yes.
the church is called.
It is in my head canon.
We fought not Omnimon Svart defeat.
Yeah, you fought
Not
not
Omnimon.
Omnimon Zwart defeat. Or not Omegamon Zwart defeat.
Who was actually a Dark Souls boss the entire time.
Yeah, because he had 2 phases. Look at that.
Who would have
A
thought it?
child killed him.
Oh, the kill!
What's scarier than a child?
No. Is that? I think that's. We did that, and I think that was about the. Oh, we did those trials too.
Yeah, you did the trials.
One of 2 trials, I would assume, because only one of our bands disappeared.
Well, no, I was talking about the thing. Well, wait, was that when we got rid of our bands, or was it after we defeated the boss?
Yes, after
No.
each one of you did your own test, one of the bands got taken off.
Right, I did judgment.
I chose my own death when it wasn't an option.
Yep.
I sacrificed myself for my son.
Also that.
I'm the world's worst marriage counselor.
Second worst. I've heard worse.
I told you it was just best to stab them.
It's true, he did.
I'm not going to kill my clients, damn it. That's not what they paid for.
But yeah.
To be fair,
Well,
Arlo's,
favor
it
shit,
worked out.
Did you get money?
No, I actually gave them money to help sort their shit out.
You did
your
not
business
actually.
model is terrible.
The test would have given you back your money because they aren't real people.
Fuck yeah! Give and it comes right back, baby!
It's like virtual space. You hand over virtual money and then you go back to the real world and you're like, oh, I didn't actually grab that.
I went feral.
You did. You went feral. Being overtaken by something. It was weird.
And relived trauma.
Yep.
Put your clothes on this time.
We're getting more control over that.
No mask, sadly.
It happens.
Nah, you don't need it.
Who needs a mask? What is a mask?
What I do every time. I
Miserable
leave the
fire
house.
secrets.
But enough of that.
Felt. Felt.
Have at you.
Remind me to buy extras and have Joy carry them.
Is your beast a burden? Jesus Christ.
I was gonna say, start turning into a pack mule.
You should just carry a pouch full of masks. Or
You
scarves.
can always ask Isaac. He's doing nothing at the moment. Maybe to keep him out of
Stuck
trouble.
on everything causes problems. I don't know if that's a good idea.
He's always in air jail.
I don't like air gel.
We put him in air jail because he keeps causing problems.
I don't cause problems.
I mean, Fenthris thinks.
I need these masks to cover a large scar I am self-conscious of, though.
Fenthris is
That's
just a
gonna
weird
have
cat.
trauma.
Just a weird.
Weird cat.
She needs to get back. Anyways, having entered this new area, rejoining with your children and each other, as well as seeing the true form of Deadman, and given the opportunity to possibly rest if you all need, what would you all like to do?
I would like to open roll 20 to actually see what the fuck is going on.
Okay. Roll me a survival check.
Oh no!
I would like a short rest.
I would say, wouldn't that be a perception?
Nat
sometimes-
20 on survival.
Hey.
You
Can I
find-
do perception? I get +3 in that.
You
On
find
physical dice.
Alina, you're able to enter and access your account on roll 20. Without any issues.
I'm convinced today isn't real.
I'd like to pretend today isn't real.
What's today?
Exactly.
I'm going to miserable fire secrets.
What is today?
Tuesday, isn't it?
Tuesday. I did that a little too well. Whoops.
All right.
Are you secretly British?
And like that, Sam is right, I'm getting on no problem.
Are you all ready?
You all ready for this?
I hate it when the music kicks in.
Wait,
I never expect it.
did we all have a short rest?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
allowed to have either a long or short rest.
Cool.
No more Zelda for you, bro. No more.
What do you mean?
Click the link on the stream yesterday. No more.
I gotta finish Melee. I still got more to do.
Okay, new canon, Joy can see Bob.
He just starts talking about a chicken named Bob.
Kay's getting offended because she's thinking, because every time Kay just happens to be in the way where she points.
Hey,
No,
look, it's
no.
like chicken.
Uncle K isn't a chicken. Bob's a chicken. Points to the top of the spire.
You're like, there's nothing there.
He's right there. Did you see the giant one? That was a cool one.
The giant.
Yeah, the giant
child
Bob.
This child has a very active imagination.
Agreed.
I've been
Which
told
is
that
funny
by a
be-
lot of psychologists. For some reason, they don't want to talk to me anymore.
Did you talk to them about fire?
Don't you?
No.
No.
Like, Kay just chimes in and is like, what's a psychologist?
Uncle K, you should go see a psychiatrist.
Oh,
A P psychiatrist. That's what I call a psychiatrist.
okay.
Okay.
The P is silent in psychiatrist.
I know.
I had to make sure. So, are you all rested enough? I grabbed the wrong mouse.
What exactly is sleep?
Oh no, Coldest is a gamer.
That's not what I. You know what? Sure, let's go with that.
Is he RP walking at us?
Kinda.
Fuck, brace yourselves, everybody.
He's giving you. I'm giving you an opportunity to rest. I'm asking you if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Did we rest?
I did.
You could have chosen to rest.
You know, fair enough. We rest.
Yeah, sure. I guess so. Might as well just.
You were given an opportunity to either short or long rest.
I will take the long rest.
You might as well.
Yeah.
I don't really need it. I was only missing 3 health, but still.
He waits for you at the top, just as you all rest.
Is he just Trainer Red?
Kinda.
You know,
but
that's
he
good
is
for-
looking at you.
That's good for us. It'll be a hard fight, but we win in the end.
Ah, fair enough.
That being said, a few of us might get knocked out. So
I am your final test, after all. I wanna
My
make
heels
sure
are
you're
ready.
all ready.
your heels.
My heels are ready.
Did you use
Oh,
lotion
like
or
healing. I was thinking
armor?
like shoes.
Did you
I'm just imagining.
did you armor your Achilles tendon?
Yes.
I asked because the heels are a big weakness for him.
Who's Achilles?
That
Look,
one
it's a
Greek
long
god.
story. It's a long story. I don't want to explain it right now.
Where are all the children in front, by the way?
I was taking
They were
care
here
of them
before
when
us.
you were in your exam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. By the way, you can also notice one of the bands is missing on each of their arms as well.
Woody, I didn't even have to do anything.
As well as Luna, who didn't even have any in the first place. So,
Is a literal baby.
yeah, it's a literal
She
baby.
is a literal baby.
She's a baby.
Remind me again why we brought the baby here?
Why do we bring the children here?
Reasons?
Concerned.
I wasn't sure if y'all had enough firepower for, not Omegamon Zwart defeat.
I was gonna say, Alita's a literal walking nuke, and besides the kill steal, they didn't really do much of that last fight.
Charles was there.
My poor
Charles-
homie got knocked out.
Charles
like
barely
twice.
made it out.
Charles was on death's door. Like, I'm not even kidding.
You see
Homie
that?
did not deserve that.
Anyways. So did you
I'm ready.
all fill out your long rest or short rest?
I did.
Yeah, really long rest.
Or mid rest? Can't forget the
Mid-rest?
mid rest.
I'm ready.
Also, don't forget my weapon's fucked up.
Yep.
I'm ready.
Man, it's over already. Holy shit.
I didn't even ask for initiative, but you know what? I like
What?
your moxie.
Well, he said we were gonna fight, right?
Yeah,
Oh, we're doing this.
he's your final test.
We are doing this. Well,
It's okay. There's only one of him.
Are you sure about that? That was a joke.
I-
Yes, there is only one of me.
well,
He is surrounded by meat on the floor, though, so that might be concerning.
There's no meat. This is wood. This place is old.
It
It
looks
falls
like
apart.
meat.
No.
He kicks a piece of it. It's just like clackers and then falls apart. It's old wood.
Why would you make fake meat like that to deceive me?
He says as those kids from town randomly spawn.
Oh god.
Jeez,
Vaguely
mister,
better rep-
you're really strong.
That's the Hercules fucking.
No, yeah.
I appreciate the reference.
Thank you.
The kids rolled, but they're not on the. Oh, wait, no.
Everyone is there except
Oh
for
no,
Joey.
we just need
One moment, let me.
Alina.
Eh.
Yeah.
Holding.
Oh, yeah.
No, to wrong mouse screen.
What are you hold? What are you holding?
A knife.
you
These
got?
nuts.
A knife!
No. No.
Fucking love that video.
That kid is like pure chaos incarnate, and I love him.
Kids are too innocent. Can I pet that dog?
Can I
Can
pet
I
that
pet
dog?
that dog?
Okay.
Yes?
Grab the wrong mouse. Okay. K.
AK. So anyway, I started blasting.
So anyway, started blasting. Suddenly, Bird just machine gun rapid fire like fireballs or some shit.
Yo, you do that, you're getting a high five, bro.
Alina, did you roll? You rolled 14. Alright. Looks like Kulthus is up first.
This motherfucker don't miss.
It's okay. That means we all get the beat on him afterwards.
Pretty much. If you can hit him.
That's a separate issue.
Anyways,
And we'll deal with that when we come across it.
he is going to...
Is he gonna turn the battle music on?
Yeah, he'll turn the battle music on.
He has a jukebox?
Sure.
It's
He just
pulls it out of
his
Eye
pocket.
of the tiger.
He's gonna walk down to the bottom of the stairs, all JoJo style, pull out a bow and start firing at Arlos and Kay.
As he approaches the group goes, "Oh, so you're approaching us?"
He said you're ready. Arlos,
Okay,
does
he's
a
actually
14
really
hit
close.
you?
It does not.
Okay. Kay, does a 11 hit you?
No.
Alina, does a 10 hit you?
Said no.
Alright. Well, that's Coldest's turn. Octad, you're up.
He missed everybody.
Hell
Everybody.
yeah.
Everybody.
I'm just gonna zoom. Bonus action to get into my rage.
You're angry.
Rage.
I'm getting angry. Why is he so cold? I want to be warm, and everywhere I go is cold. This is bullshit.
Well, I'm partially a lich, so that's kind of part of why that is.
Then that makes
That's
me even
kinda
angrier.
cool.
You already died
Yeah.
once. Stay dead, asshole.
I'm doing a job for my goddess.
I go to hit him.
You miss.
Uh-oh. I go to hit him again.
You hit.
Yay.
I'm just expecting Arlos to be out of nowhere like, is your goddess hot?
Hey, you gotta get there first.
She's pretty cool.
15 plus. Boo. Now I really want to kill him.
Okay, come on. That's no need for that. 15 plus 2 from angry.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yes. And that will be my turn.
Alright. Alina, you're up.
I gotta see something.
Also, what kind of damage was that?
You asking me?
Yeah. Lightning
It's
or
still
acid?
set to the it's still set to the electric. It's not the acid right now.
Okay, just double checking. Just in case.
Just in case what?
Just in case things.
But,
That's
Oh.
that's a net one. That's a miss. Cool, that's a miss.
we took a long rest.
You took a long
only have
rest.
one.
You should have 3 points of it.
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta do my 2 rolls.
Oh yeah.
Let me
a
do that
number.
real quick.
14?
14
17.
and 17. I'll take the 17.
Okay, I'll take the 14. That is a miss.
Okay, so
Yep.
at the least we know it's an 18. It could be 17.
That your turn? You cast? Ooh. Okay. Okay. You cast Hexblade's Curse on him.
That's my thing.
Not anymore, bitch.
Anything else you'd like to do?
It's okay, I did too.
Yeah.
I also did.
Alright. Next up is Zell.
Go,
Who is
little buddy,
not
go.
multi-classed.
Oh boy.
Not yet.
He's
may not
still a
have
child,
multi-classed.
so
But he still do his rogue thing. Alright, he's gonna try and...
did you say throw or throat? Because those are 2 different
Rogue.
things.
Huh?
Oh, rogue.
Said rogue.
over here. I feel like this could be a good test to see where you're at.
Zell will try to bonus action hide.
Where?
Oh, you know what? He's directly looking at him.
He's directly
Never mind.
in line of sight.
But
To be fair, if you did attack him, you would still get sneak attack.
sneak attack, you're saying?
Yes. Rogues get that at level 1.
Yeah.
Move here. We want to try and do the thing with the poison dagger.
Alright. Go ahead and roll an attack.
Well,
That is unfortunately a miss for Zell. What about his other
nice try,
dagger?
little buddy. We roll.
His other regular dagger. That is also a miss, unfortunately.
Nice try, little buddy.
Alright. And with Zell's turn done, it's Arlos.
Oh, I guess I should get in there. I will also. Does Hexblade Curse apply? Like, does their Hexblade Curse also apply for me, or do I have to apply my own?
It's individual.
Okay, I'm gonna apply the same thing then.
Alright, you use your own Hexblade's Curse.
You just say don't mess up.
Apply your own.
Alright, we're going to try and do a little slash.
Mhm. You run up behind your son, stopping before he does, and slashing down on Coldest, and just have it bounce right off of his armor.
He has a 17?
Well, a 16 missed before, so. Anyways,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
I was gonna ask if you had more.
Hold on.
Hold it.
Holding. Oh, hold
I'm
on.
waiting to see if I
Hold on.
get a Wait and see if I
Holding.
get a. Oh, it's only bonus damage, not +2 to attack. Well, never mind.
Yeah, it's a damage, not an attack.
We go again. Yeah. We miss
You
again.
miss again. Anything else you'd like to
God.
try?
Try.
One of these days you'll be useful.
I've been more useful than you. That
What
is
do you
it.
mean? I did damage.
This
Hey, it's your turn.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh god. Okay.
They
Well,
surround
first
him.
Oh god. Kay is gonna move here and then fly up 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then something. What? I don't know what. I'm gonna put down my unicorn totem here.
The unicorn totem. What color do you want it?
Pink.
Pink? This is the closest I got a pink.
Close enough. And then
Knees weak,
Alright.
arms are quaking.
I'm gonna produce flame him.
Alright.
Okay, you produce flame on the coldest night.
Yeet. Yes!
That's a hit.
Nice.
You deal 10 fire damage to him, and it looks like it deals damage to him.
Wait a second, I caught that.
Yeah.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I would sure hope.
I wasn't paying attention because I was looking at something. It was D&D related.
I get the reference, team. Yeah, it boosts healing and saving throws. Also, Alina, you're getting spells now, so there are ways to get temporary hit points via spells. I mean, I don't know if you would like to nuke him anyways, considering how courteous he's being. Anyways, Kay, is there anything else you'd like to do on your turn?
No, that was it.
Okay. Next up is Charles Barkley.
First of all, Charles gets angry.
He gets angry.
Yeah.
His cape starts billowing out in the non-existent wind in this room. Joy looks proud.
He holds his stick aggressively.
He holds his
He
stick
holds-
aggressively.
He holds the stick aggressively.
He looks very majestic, but also extremely angry.
He looks like Gandalf when he asked Harry calmly.
Gandalf? You mean,
Yes, I know
Yes.
what I said.
Dumbledore?
I realized. I
Same
made the
person.
realization, okay?
Same person.
Just
He,
rest in peace, all the Dumbledores. I'm pretty sure. I think they're all dead, aren't they?
he zoomed.
I think so.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Shout out
And
to all my
then-
Dumbledores.
Rest
You're the real homies.
And then
in peace.
Rest in tea.
Charles is gonna
Got
take
it.
his stick and he's gonna try and whack the person.
You all watch as Charles zooms by, cape billowing behind him, as it just comes to a stop and it like floats off to
Damn
the
it.
side of him. Yeah, he misses with his stick.
He misses with the stick. It hits the ground with a thwack.
I like to
What
imagine
the
we just
fuck?
watched all this kid run with his like arms airplaned, or Naruto running, holding a stick.
Picture the
He's
Naruto
not running
run.
that fast, but we all everyone stops and looks at him.
He's also wearing a cape, by the way. Just saying.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
He's
Wait, where'd you
trying
get the
so
cape from?
hard.
Joy gave it to him.
Ah,
She made it. Hence why she looks proud.
he got a stick from the turtle. He got a cape from Joy. He's got my rage. He was given life
Gave
by
him that
Arlos and Kay.
The fuck?
To be fair, Arlos gave him the stick.
I thought Uruguay gave him the stick.
I gave him the zappy stick.
He gave him the zappy stick.
Wow.
But he's getting trained by Uruguay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's right.
is that Charles'
Oh,
turn?
he's got.
That's his turn.
Alright. Joy, you're up. Yeah.
Throw fire, and if he missed, it's okay. It'll probably hit Arlos.
What the fuck?
That's not my goal!
Actually, yes.
That's not my goal! Uncle Arlos!
Mother- Mother fluffin' firebolt.
Time for a mother
No,
fluffing
no.
firebolt!
Let's not hit me with elemental attacks, yeah?
Not trying to! Yeah.
If she does, it won't be on purpose.
Oh, because the weapon does bad things if I'm hit against with elements, remember?
Does it do bad things? Does
Yes.
it really?
Yes. Oh no, I have to take the reaction for that to happen. Never mind.
Also, roll me wisdom saving throws for Alina and Arlos.
Oh, fuck, man. Oh. Oh.
You
Yeah.
both kind of feel like a sort of rage and desire to just continue and attack as you move forward and as you both hold your weapons. They seem to sort of grow stronger in the presence of each other. Anyways, it's Coldest's
no.
turn.
They're gonna get a chain attack.
Yay!
Maybe.
Like, we talking like persona chain attacks or like.
I mean,
All out of
most
time.
games use that. They use a similar system.
I mean, that would be pretty cool.
We have two
One not
Bleach
intended.
representatives. Let's throw Persona one. Wait until Octot gets a mask.
Arlos,
Persona Octa?
does a
Yes.
28 hit you?
Oh, yes, it does.
Alright, let's see. Okay, that's that damage.
We might have.
Man's went from a 14 and an 11 to 28.
I'm
You take
scared.
11 slashing damage plus 7 cold damage.
So I took 18 in total, right?
Yep. Alina, does a 26 hit you?
Oh God.
You take
Oh,
11
I like how you
slashing
asked-
damage. And 3
Oh,
cold
shit.
damage.
I like how you ask if it hits us. You're knowing full well you know it hits us.
Which is resisted to 1. You will Hellish Rebuke. Okay. Let me roll a saving throw.
Yikes.
Okay. He'll take the 30 damage. As he fails his save.
Nice.
And Octod.
All
Does
right.
a 20 hit you?
Oh, I thought it was my turn. Yes.
No.
I can see why.
You take 13 slashing damage,
It's a good thing I'm raging.
which is halved to 6. But you also take 5 cold damage.
Can't do anything about that.
Yep. And that will be his turn.
Okay, now it's my turn. First things first, I'll do my Draconic Cry. So it's everyone within 10 feet of me, which is
Everyone.
pretty much, yeah, everyone that is nearby me.
Everyone who's melee.
So everyone gets advantage on attack rolls against Coldest until my next turn. That includes myself. Speaking of myself, myself gonna attack.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a natural 20.
Damn.
Octot is angry. That's a lot of numbers.
That is
Plus
a lot
2.
of numbers. Total critical damage is 6. That doesn't sound. Oh, that's 11. Plus 2,
Yeah.
which is 13. I can math.
That's fine. That's totally fine. Second attack. I can't see. I know that hits.
That's a hit. Go ahead and roll your damage. These nuts attack. And it'll take 10
Oof.
damage from that.
And that is all I can do.
The lightning damage seems to do damage. Neon!
Not like how you said seems to.
One, it seems to do damage. What do you want me to say? Alina, you're up.
God, I need one more level so I can be even more helpful.
Let's use this scythe. Fang of the Devourer.
I know they say scythes aren't very effective weapons, but why do they gotta be so cool looking?
Right?
Good
It's
question.
because they're fucking cool looking. And that is
I
a
love it.
miss, unfortunately.
Okay, so now we know.
Now you know.
Oh yeah, you have advantage because of my thing.
Oh yeah, you have advantage because of the Draconic Cry.
Swing again.
And no other reason.
Hey,
That's a hit.
look at that! It's already coming into play.
Nice. Deal 19 damage.
That's 3.
Plus 3? Okay.
I don't know. Oh, the Hexblade. That's right.
Oh, it's plus 3 now? Wait. Oh, is it according to your proficiency bonus? Charisma modifier. No, it's you gain bonus damage against the cursed target. The bonus damage equals your proficiency bonus. Okay, that checks out. Alright. Sounds good. Is that your turn? Or do you use your bonus action for something else?
Oh, so I should have been getting +3 to my stuff, not +2.
Yeah, ever since your ability, since your proficiency bonus went up to +3 instead of +2. Sorry, if I knew that's how it worked, I would let you know.
Haha, it's all good.
That was also a crit? Oh. Roll your damage dice again.
Wait, what?
She got a crit because she rolled 19. Wait, no. Oh, that was almost a crit.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
You wrote that was also a crit. Just that threw me
Just
off.
miss. I do that too
Typo.
sometimes, where you just try to spell one word, you spell something else completely by accident.
Yeah, unfortunately that had context to it, so oops. Anyways, Zell, your turn.
We're going to get him real good this time. We're going to try and bonus action. I'm not in his direct
Oh,
line of
you're
sight,
reading-
right?
Okay, we can go back to you when you're good, alright? But yeah, you can go ahead, Arlos. I mean Zell.
That sounds great.
I meant Zell.
Yeah. So do I?
Yeah, we
roll
know
a
you
spell?
did say that. We know.
It's Arlos is controlling him.
Can I attempt to hide so I'm not directly in his line of sight?
Not really. You would have to hide behind something,
All right. Well, we started doing the thing then.
unless
We
you
go
rolled a
to
really
the-
high to hide in his flank.
We go with the poison dagger. Yeah.
That is a natural 20.
Hell yeah. Give me that damage, baby. Ah.
Alina, if you wanna throw it up in the chat so that we can all see. That's a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this boat in half.
Oh, I need a Constitution save. I like my chances. 9. I'm gonna use my Indomitable,
Oh,
and I failed.
Yeah.
So I take the extra 12. Oh, Booming Blade. That's a... Okay, so you use your action to cast it, but during that casting, part of the cast is you make an attack. And SP stands for Silver Piece. So, he does 24 plus 22. That's 46 damage. Holy shit, Zell.
Myself.
wait, how much?
46.
How? What?
Poison of the Venom Dagger.
He's lower level than us, and he does more damage than almost all of us on average.
Hey, Zell? How do you want
Yes.
to do this?
Oh my god.
Oh,
Are you
nice.
kidding me?
No. This time I'm not fudging the numbers. This is actual for real.
God, I hate rogues.
I love rogues.
Zell's going to use his claws to run
I agree.
off his back and
Oh.
jump in the air and slam the poison dagger down his spine. Just drag his way down from his skull downwards.
And sliding down with the dagger down his back, Coldest falls down to his knees, just falling back in pain, kinda. And you watch as he slowly starts to fade into ash. But he takes a moment to look up at all of you and congratulate you. Thank you. You've done me a service I couldn't ask for. I couldn't repay you for.
Does mean we get to meet your goddess?
I get to meet her at least. But I won't leave you empty-handed. He turns to Zell, takes off his gloves, and offers them to him. Here, take these. You earned them. As he starts to, I don't feel good, Mr. Stark, fade away with a smile on his face.
This is a load of particles.
Dusk. What would Zell like to do?
Zell will take the gloves and they're too big for him, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Alright, well, Zell will grow into them. They'll be alright.
Yeah. He kind of puts them on, just not really fitting in them. Then they kind of shrink down and mold to his hands.
They're living!
Yeah, they're magic. They tend to do that. But thank you. Again, all of you.
Weren't you turning into dust a second ago?
I am turning into dust.
It's rude.
Should we scatter you about like your ashes?
I'll be fine.
Man, this is fucking rude.
If you want, you are free to head through the doorway behind me. It should take you back to how you got here. Goodbye.
With no hesitation, Octavius. Well, thank you for a great fight.
Thank you. And with that, he fades away.
I will
Octad, you
scoop up
jump
his
through the
ashes.
portal, and you jump,
Wahoo!
and you fall face first onto a wooden floor in a dark room.
Why does this
Just keep
shit keep
landing.
happening to me, man?
You jumped!
Yeah, I thought we were leaving. So I got excited.
Yeah, you got
Dig.
excited and you jumped.
I'm scooping up his ashes and putting them in a little sack.
Oh my god.
Are you actually?
Yes, I'm going to set this man free on the outside world.
This is his
I thought you were
church.
Oh. I mean...
I don't want to
Fine.
be here.
He's been here this entire time. Don't you think he wants some fresh air?
He was dying with a smile. Well, dying again with a smile.
Fine, we'll leave him here. But I will give Zell a big hug and we will go because Zell is fucking badass.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. That was amazing. I wasn't even able to land a hit on that guy.
Thank you. He seemed really nice.
He did, didn't he?
Mhm.
It's a shame when nice people have to go.
Yeah. And with that, you all walk through the portal, all ending up back in a familiar, small wooden room all together. As you kind of find
Oh, we're
yourself
back to the rice fields.
in this building, doors closed, sun barely sneaking in.
Which building?
This building up here.
I'd like to barrel out the doors. Well, Lena said something first.
Alina, you go to try the doors, and Octad kind of just tumbles through them. Roll me a dexterity save, Octad.
I'm decent at this.
You stumble through the doors, but you don't like land on your tail or anything as you catch yourself before you fall into the snow.
I
Hooray!
take him out of the doorway.
What is your problem with me?
There's also a Hound Hour in chat.
Pupper.
Bow wow.
Ooh woo.
You
Oh,
were the
no.
one that says that Octa doesn't like Arlos. Arlos is just pushing the plot along, brother.
I didn't do shit to you. I don't know what your problem is.
I think that's bullshit.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh god, Charles is large again. Sammy!
That's his default size.
Lorg.
Lorgan Chorg.
It's Lord Charles. We must all bow.
Lorgan and Chorg.
Lord Charles, can you imagine?
The way things are going, that might be possible, actually.
Anyways, you all find yourself in the rice fields that you started out in, having exited the Church of Kalen. The other band no longer on any of your arms.
Well, that was fucking weird.
You're telling me.
I have to agree. Did anyone learn anything?
No, not at all.
I learned to make sure the challenges are better next time.
I sent the man to death.
You what?
You did what?
He
Sentence.
killed someone.
Why?
I don't know. He killed someone. I asked if he killed him. He said yes, so I sentenced him to die.
Did you
What was
even
that
ask him why he killed him?
No,
Okay.
Oh.
he killed someone, and that's against the law, so he went to die.
We just killed someone.
He was undead. He's not real.
I don't think that's quite how that works.
No, he's just like Arlos. He's not real.
Cade kind of puts his
going to
hands on
stop
his
my-
hips.
I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him.
Cade like reaches out to put a hand on Arlos, like, don't do it.
I was just looking at the chat. Does you what? Our crime Soviet theme.
Our crime.
Our war crime.
I would watch that
We might
anime.
do some of those.
What?
Our War Crime.
What?
I would
I-
watch that if it was an anime, yes.
I'd watch that anime.
There's probably some that do something similar. Saint, what's it called? Saint Seiya? No, not Saint Seiya.
Hey.
Saint something.
Saint
I don't know.
something. I'd also watch that
No,
anime.
again, what was it called? I'm blanking on its name, but it was a big war thing. There might have been some war crimes in that one.
So, what would y'all like to do?
I would like to cast Second Wind for myself.
It's not a spell, so you cannot cast Second Wind for yourself.
I would like to give myself a second wind.
There you go. You can give yourself a second wind.
I just addressed the theory. He's like, why are we even here?
I say let's head back to town.
Got a full heal off that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much damage did you even take? Oh, you did get hit by the dude.
Yeah,
I forgot he actually did hit you for some good damage.
it was a good chunk.
It was really cold.
But yeah, Alina starts leading the way down the path. Luna now back into her arms. And you all slowly walk your way back to By the Frost. Where you all meet up with familiar face. That familiar face being Sock at the front desk. And everyone else
Oh,
at the inn.
what, everyone?
Most everyone. Some people are new, some people are old.
What is going on here?
Oh, did I not move you?
No.
No, we were still here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought. All right.
I could have sworn I moved you all.
Nope. Maybe you did. I just didn't actually move us.
Yeah, it's dumb. I paid for y'all to get moved, so you'll be moved. Anyways. Welcome back. What would y'all like to do now that you're back in a warm environment?
I'd make a fire. No, I'm kidding.
Octot says again, why did we even go there?
It was a request from a stranger, I suppose.
So we went because you talked to a weirdo on the street.
Precisely.
And-
But didn't you have fun? You got to go see the world.
To be
Kill
fair,
I
you,
got bored.
zombies.
you ended up
I
killing a
didn't get the-
stranger.
I didn't get to do anything.
Did you?
Wait, what?
did you not?
Just- I didn't really get to do anything. I didn't get to do anything against Omnimon. I didn't get to do anything against.
Maybe if you were in the front line, like you should have been, you would have.
I was in the front line. I was the
Really?
first one to attack the coldest night.
Skill issue.
For once. What about against the giant creature?
I was there for that too.
You weren't in the front.
I just.
Me and the
I-
turtle were in the front for that.
It's because you guys
Hell,
are
even
faster than me.
Charles was there.
They're
Skill
faster than
issue.
me. It's not a skill issue. What do you want me to do? Just run up there and do nothing?
Sometimes.
Charles was like, "Don't bring me into this."
You did fine, Charles. I was praising you.
See, Joy, this is why we hate this guy.
I mean, he can be a little mean sometimes.
See, he could be a little mean
I
sometimes.
mean,
Look, you threatened me with fire!
I wouldn't actually hurt you.
She
Then
looks
why'd
at
you
you.
threaten a little girl with fire, huh?
She stares
That's
at
a good
you.
person.
It was a little funny.
She gives you the face, press X to doubt.
Charles just kind of like walks up and like knocks Arlos in the leg with his stick. Like, stop being mean.
But the what?
He didn't do it
Ow.
hard.
It's a zappy stick.
This is the exact face
Emoji
Joy's making.
sushi.
This is the exact face she's making.
Alina, do you actually ask Fenthirst?
A link.
I picture this is the face that she's making.
Give me 1 second. I gotta see this face. Yeah. yeah, that's the face. Alright, so you go up to Fenthirst, who's kind of like laying down on a table, just like relaxing, hanging with herself, just being at peace internally. When she suddenly hears the sound of children and a mom approaching her. Nagik! Oh, it's you. Okay. Penny? Yeah, as they checked, she was, going to her room. She seemed a little sick. I don't know, she went in a little bit of a hurry. Now that you mention it, I haven't seen her for a couple hours. We should go check to see if she's okay.
That morning sickness kick in? Is that what that is?
I'll go with you. Do you mind if I ride on your shoulders? I'm a little tired.
Weren't you just sitting here?
Shush you, you're not here.
What?
This
Where
is
am
our
I then?
AB conversation, not ABC conversation.
Damn, she really pulled that out there, huh?
Rude.
Thank you. Fencer just like flies up and floats like onto your shoulders like a little scarf. And you head upstairs towards Penny's room. And you give a couple of knocks on there. Fencer's kind of yells out, "Penny, you okay in there?" And in response, all you get is a little groan. It's like, doesn't sound good. You want to open the door? I don't have a key.
I really wanted Finthers to say, or opposable thumbs.
Or opposable thumbs. You
A link.
jiggle the doorknob, and it is locked. But you feel like if you can just jiggle it the right way, you can get it unlocked. Would you like to roll a sleight of hand? Like, you ever get those doors where it's like they're closed and they're locked, but if you do the right thing, you can just unlock it
Yep.
or open it. Yeah.
Especially in older houses.
All right. Yeah, you get up on top of the doorknob, you press down, give it a little twist, and you just barely open the knob enough to just push the door open. With a little pop. And as you kind of like force the door open a little bit, you see a small bulge underneath the blanket, just breathing up and down, just like, and you hear groaning coming from it, as you're pretty sure that's Penny. Hey, I'm right here. Penny, are you okay? I'm just very tired. There a reason you're tired? Like, have you been sick? Have you been throwing up? I mean, something came out. No, can you get me something to eat, and, can you help me get changed? Thank you. Penny, are you okay? As, Fencer's kinda flies up over to her, she kinda just freezes mid-flight, staring at just above the mound that is Penny, covered up, and just kind of blinks a couple times, floats backwards onto your shoulders, like, I don't want to be here. My worst nightmare has come to life. Sort of. He might be a little much, but I mean, he should probably know. Yeah. I don't want to be here. Don't tell Penny I said that. I heard that. Shit. Meanwhile, Bob cleans out a little bit more money from Salty.
Damn.
Damn, this chicken's gonna sweep the fucking table.
I'm telling you, I see him
Nope.
everywhere. He's really cool. I can't believe I'm. I can't believe I'm losing to a chicken.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Hey, who said that?
It
He
was
just
me.
points to Arlos.
I'll show you a skill issue. Alright. I'll challenge you to, wait, you're the champion, aren't you? Fuck. I was about to challenge you to a, battle top fight, but, there goes my idea.
You want a drinking contest instead?
Oh my god.
You know what? You're on. And he kind of takes you over to the bar.
He just calls out to Arlos, like, I'm not helping you if you get shit-faced.
I won't need it.
That's what they all say.
So
He
you,
just takes Zell and Charles over to, like, the couches.
you all
Little
head
does
over
he
to.
know I can't be poisoned.
You both head over to Papa John and get yourselves set up with a drinking contest. Meanwhile, while that's happening, Octad, Alina and Fenthers come back to you, and Alina asks you to go to Penny's room while Fenthers kind of just crumples into the seat over here.
Oh. Okay. Sure. Just, go up there.
You head up, going to Penny's room, and you just see a big mound of kobold underneath the blankets. Can't really see your face from this point, but you can see the tip of her tail poking out the bottom.
Octod, like, gently lifting the blanket. Hello.
From which end?
The opposite end of where the tail's poking out.
Okay, do you do it behind her or in front of her?
Wait, what? How does...
Like, she's laying down on her side on the bed.
Whatever side is closest towards me.
Okay. So... directly in front of the doorway is the bed. Penny's kind of sleeping on, or laying down, closer to the right side of it, with her back facing the right wall, and just like underneath the blankets. So if you want, there's technically a space to the on the left side for you,
Yeah. Okay.
unless you want to open it by her side and just say hello and see how she's doing.
That's what I wanted to do, open on her side.
Okay, so you open it up on her side, and like, you can see the back of her head, and she kind of turns to you. Her glasses have like fallen off to the side. Oh, Doc. Hi. Is anyone else here?
I'm still checking the room. No.
Okay. You promised not to freak out?
Sure.
Alright. She ruffles up from underneath the bed. She doesn't turn to you from underneath the blanket. She doesn't turn to you at all, but from underneath the blanket, you see something white and round pop out.
What's with the stone?
It's a little bigger than a stone. It's about a little bigger than a football.
It's a big rock.
It's ovular, kind of shelly in a way.
Octot's staring at this thing. It's like,
Roll me a survival check.
"19."
You're a cook. You would recognize an egg when you see one.
What?
They're delicious.
Oh, it's an egg.
Yeah.
Why do you have an egg?
Octad.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And this is the first one.
Oh, so there's two.
Sure. 2.
Not inaccurate.
2 is what he said.
That is, in fact, what I said.
Ventress! I am so tired.
You want me to put the blanket back?
No, I like the blanket. Can you get something ready and warm to, like, keep all these together?
Ready and warm. Okay, I'll see what I can find.
We'll need to come up with names later. When I can think.
Okay.
Basically asking you to make a nest.
Octad will come down. We'll go, leave to go get the things. He comes out. He's like, guys, how do I make a space for eggs to keep them warm? Per that gift is pretty accurate.
What? You hear Urgai talk?
How do you make a place to keep eggs warm? Like, what do I do? Do I get a pot? I don't...
With your survival check, you do know that a pot is really effective at warming up eggs.
Yes.
Same with a frying pan, deep fryer.
I was trying to get Kay's attention with that, but Mikey's away.
Yeah. What? How warm do you need the eggs?
I don't know, but warm enough.
Octa, don't you dare cook them.
But I wasn't gonna cook them.
You hear from the chair. Without getting up from it, you just hear Fenthris yelling at you.
Come on now, let's be smart here.
I swear
no
if you hurt them...
No time for jokes.
You see her head lean off the side of the chair and just glare death stares at you. I don't joke.
Well then stop making jokes. We gotta take this seriously.
You see her face turn red. Like even through her scales and fur.
Well, while you're over there changing colors, I gotta figure something out. I need help.
I mean... Hold on, give me 1 second.
Fire's not the solution.
Bob, do you know how to make a nest?
She's asking the chicken. Alina, I'm concerned for your child.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, really? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Of course he did. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you. He doesn't know.
Of course, okay. And you talk to chickens all the time?
Not really.
Alright then.
Why, do
well,
you?
that was... No, I don't talk to chickens.
Okay.
Well, this doesn't help. Fire's not always the solution when it comes to my eggs.
Now, tell me, Octad, why would you need help with eggs?
He's laying eggs.
Oh, good for her. And how are you planning to keep them warm?
That's literally what I'm asking.
Oh, God.
This turtle's make me annoyed.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
You have been no help.
Well, I'm just saying. Reptiles and dragons take care of their eggs differently.
Alright, dragons are reptiles?
You would think that. I take that back. Okay, you hear Isaac just yelling. I take offense to that. How dare you? Insinuate.
That dragons are reptiles?
Isaac is offended by dragons are reptiles.
Well, shit, put him in air jail.
He is an air gel.
Put him in air jail too.
Electric Boogaloo. But Joy pops up. Yeah, actually, dragons are part of the Draconid family. As opposed to the reptile family.
Nerds. A bunch of nerds. They're reptiles. Nerds.
Just wait till you learn about frogs.
What the hell's a frog?
Oh boy. I don't have enough years in my life to tell you what a frog is.
You're like 7.
I'm 5.
Point being. I think the one person I need here disappeared.
I know, it was such bad timing. There's someone else you can try.
Alina's looking for food for Penny.
You could try asking a dragon.
What dragon? There's no dragons here, Octod says aloud.
Everyone gives you a stare.
Wait a second. Octod bursts through a door. He goes over here, bursts through another door. And
Can I help you?
how make egg warm?
Excuse me?
How make egg warm?
I mean, usually I put them in a pot and boil them.
Not food egg, baby egg.
I'm not some kind of bird. Why are you asking me?
As these 4
Egg.
random guards sitting around.
I don't know nothing about no eggs. Y'all know something about eggs?
I don't know, nothing but eggs.
Nothing about eggs.
I like them stir fried.
Need help? Egg babies.
Have you tried asking chicken or something?
Chicken's meditating, I think.
What?
I don't know, they're not conscious right now.
I was making a joke, but okay. I know, you could try asking Ray. Ray seems to know a lot.
Immediately leaves. Upstairs. Unless Ray's here and I just didn't see them on the map.
No, Ray's on the 2nd floor.
Okay,
Go ahead and put yourself down as I delete
I'm
Arlos.
getting there.
What? I'm going to the Shadow Realm!
From the 2nd floor.
Octod burst through door. How make eggs warm?
What?
How make eggs warm?
Well, I mean, you can cook them. Well, that's always a good way to make them warm.
Blank.
Not food egg, baby. Not food egg, baby egg.
Why would you need to know this?
Penny baby.
What do you mean, Penny baby?
Penny, have baby.
quite clear. Oh, Blanca, cover for me.
Sure. What do you leave me in charge?
Egg,
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 egg.
egg, egg.
You two rush off to Penny's room. Ray just like snapping fingers as things float behind them. And then you just burst into the room, kind of startling Penny, but she barely moves from how tired she is.
Egg.
Egg! She just, Ray throws their hands down towards the floor as a bunch of the stuff that they collected just swirls together onto the floor in a giant, massive puddle with, like, almost a giant donut with, like, a covering underneath at the bottom that kind of lays flat and is covered in a blanket to make it all nice and smooth and soft, and also to keep it warm. How big did you need it? Do you need more? How many are there?
Penny, help. She said 2.
You said 2.
All they
How
have
many
any
are
egg.
there? There's 5. There's how
Uh-oh.
many? 5.
Oh no, I did too good a job.
I mean, good job. I'm gonna go get some more supplies. You rest there.
Okay.
Also, Alina, if you want, you can have come back with food by now.
I like how after we start scrambling, egg pun, Kay shows up. Nice timing, Mikey.
I'm sorry.
You're
It's
fine.
just funny.
You're fine. It's just a situation of circumstance. As you all see Ray come down. Fuck. Do I have a Ray character? No, I don't. Damn it. Give me a
You
second.
can't use the same token?
Hmm?
You can't use that same token?
I can, but I have to go get it. I thought I had like a thing on the side that I saved.
Ah, I see.
So you all
Oh,
watch as,
yeah, that's...
as Ray runs down. Excuse me, do you know where I can find oh, you know why I'm asking you? Your friend needs help up there. Both of them. And that dragon's not helping. I'm helping myself already right now. Fair enough.
What did I miss?
Well, Urgai speaks up.
You missed. You kind of blacked out when Octad came scrambling down the stairs, asking about how to keep eggs warm.
Oh. Well, that's easy. Build a nest.
Yeah, I'm working on getting supplies. Do you want to check on her real quick? She's there in the... I left Penny alone with Octad. Oh dear.
Alright. Time to build a nest. First, you're gonna need a lot of feathers. Wait, kobolds don't have feathers. Shit.
I can get feathers. Hold on. As Ray kind of runs off towards this table over here. Then behind
For a
the
second,
group, as they go through a wall.
For a second, I thought you were gonna say they grab Bob.
First of all, they grab Bob.
Hold on. I'm getting something ready over here. And you watch they come out of the door holding something.
Oh my god.
Okay, I got feathers.
A second Bob.
He
What do you mean?
multiplied.
What do you mean? Why are there 2 Bobs? What do you mean 2 Bobs? This is my pet chicken, Hamlet.
Sam's getting a lot of mileage out of these chickens.
I'm just so glad I made this chicken.
I will pay for it.
Alright, come with me. And Ray kind of just rushes with you, Kay, up the stairs into Penny's room.
Is Ray just like dragging Kay by the arm, like, this way?
Yep. Meanwhile, chickens is in their arm, just like, "Peacock!"
Panic barking. Bark, bark.
We're back with the chicken. Oh, I mean, sorry, Kay. I meant Hamlet.
It's okay. You're not the first person to say chicken in my presence.
Why do you have a chicken?
I was told I need feathers.
Yes, we need to make a nest. You want to keep an egg warm, you gotta have a nest.
I mean, I made one there, but it can keep like, I don't know, 1, maybe 2 eggs warm. You look at the nest and it's like really oversized for what you're used to.
Holy shit, that's a huge nest.
I know, it's not big enough. I know.
What do you mean it's not big enough? This thing is huge.
What do you mean?
I think this is a cultural difference again.
Oh, right, dragon eggs tend to be kind of big. You know, about the size of a shield?
Oh!
Big egg.
Yeah, no, How many eggs?
But the egg, Penny's egg is the size of a large boulder, the size of a small boulder.
About the size of a football.
Do we know what
What
football
What
is?
the fuck is a football?
Out of character, it's the size of a football, so that when you actually see it,
Oh, okay. Kay was about to get so confused. He's like, I don't understand.
it's
your
slightly
sports."
bigger than a mug.
Octod lifts the sheets like where the egg was to show. Egg!
Octad, you lift up one of the eggs away from Penny, barely pulling it out of her death grip. As you see underneath it, there's yet another patch of white. And you just hold it
How
up
many-
to Kay. Egg.
Egg!
Kay just stares in awe. Like, how many eggs? What the?
They're also bigger than you expected, but not as big as the dragons.
Yeah.
Which is odd because kobolds are smaller than most Aarakocras, but for some reason their eggs are bigger.
Big egg. What do with egg?
First, you need to put it in a nest that is filled with. So, we Aarakocra build nests out of twigs, leaves, and soft materials that we enjoy. Not sure about kobolds. And we fill them with down.
Well, dragons use either stones heated by lava, or we use, depending on the element, actually, it could be lava, ice, whatever. But we also tend to use rocks or gold, depending on what we hoard.
Maybe I use more warm rocks
I
and maybe some sticks.
just use a bunch of blankets.
Blankets work. I mean, they're gonna keep the eggs warm.
That's right. Do you think this nest is big enough for 5 eggs? Octod does not understand the circumference.
Kay just kind of looks at the egg Octod is holding, and then, like, back and forth between the nests and the egg, and is like,
You look at the nest and the egg, and seeing Ray's confusion with the dragon-sized eggs, the nest is definitely big enough for 5 eggs.
I would say the nest is big enough. I think you've got a good nest.
They're a lot smaller than I expected.
I didn't know what to expect. They're bigger than the eggs I eat. These are not eating eggs I must protect.
I'm usually used to eggs about this big, and they kind of like hold out their arms to about the size of a round shield.
Have you never had eggs in your own kitchen?
A dragon egg, not a
Not a chicken egg.
Not a chicken egg. Sorry, Hamlet. You see an
Wait,
egg
and
just splat on the ground.
Kay just like
That-
confusedly
that
turns to
No, go ahead.
Kay just confusedly turns to Ray and is like, wait, so if dragon eggs are that big, and I'm an Aarakocra who can turn into a dragon, does that mean that if I have eggs, that I would they be dragon sized or
Wait,
Aarakocra sized? Now I'm
You're an
confused.
Aarakocra that turns into a dragon, not a dragon that turns into an Aarakocra.
So the
Yes,
air
but-
cocker says.
But what if I
Ch-
but what if I was in dragon form when it happened?
I have
These are
many
questions I need answered.
We might have to commit a science experiment later.
Commit a science experiment.
Shit.
That being said, Octave places the egg very, very gently, like
mostly up
like
to
way
you.
too gently that you're like, whoa, Octave cannot be this gentle.
Roll a dexterity saving throw.
Please don't make me drop my baby.
Roll a dexterity saving throw.
Gotta keep your mouth quiet.
Yeah. Kay, you watch as Octad places this egg down so daintily and delicately that you forget it's Octad doing it.
I must protect my babies.
And he does this one by one, right after the other, until there's a round circle of 5 eggs in this nest.
I got him in the nest. Now what do I do?
Ray looks at you, Kay. Well, depending on the dragon, you'd either freeze them, set them on fire, or it depends.
Octave very visibly uncomfortable. Is like, no, I don't want to burn my babies or freeze my babies. Joy, no. Octave will do the lizard thing, and he will croissant himself around the eggs.
You croissant yourself around the eggs, and your body kind of like reacts to the presence of the eggs by kind of warming itself up, oddly enough.
I shall protect. I keep the babies warm. Can someone check on Penny while I am doing this, please?
Ray looks at you, and back to Kay, and then back to you, just places a blanket over you and the eggs. And then, goes to help out Penny, without, like, removing the blanket, just, like, helping her change out of her clothes into some more comfortable ones. Making sure she's comfortable. And, like, making sure she actually eats some of the food Alina brought her.
I give her credit. She laid 5 eggs and didn't make a goddamn sound. At least not a lot of it.
You should have been here. Oh, that was the Oh. Wow, I should have realized that much sooner. Well, it's not every day the miracle of egg laying happens in my inn. You take care of yourself, Penny. As Ray kind of just pats her on the head, puts her glasses on the side table, and just like looks at you as they walk out. Just like, you take care now.
Thank you, Ray, from the distance from Octave to her.
Yeah, of course.
They.
To they. And they just close the door softly behind them as they kind of snap their fingers, dimming the lights a little bit. At least on Penny's side. There's still enough light for you to see around. Even
I
if you
am
didn't
just
have
kind-
dark vision.
I shall remain motionless until the eggs are safe.
The eggs are safe, but you know,
You know what I mean.
I do. And with that, we're gonna switch over to taking our first break for the night. And by first, I don't mean like there's gonna be a second. I just mean there's gonna be, most likely, just gonna be this one break,
Suddenly 12-hour D&D stream.
right?
Maybe one day, but we'd have to start early. I can't do all nighters like that anymore.
Yeah, same.
Getting too old.
Too much.
I
of
like
it
my sleep.
would be.
Oh baby.
Anyways, we'll be back. We'll see y'all shortly.
I shall be right back since it's break time. I need food.
That's how.
Everyone go get food.
I mean-
Take care of yourselves. We'll be back in like, what, 15 minutes ish? Should we say?
I'm gonna throw up.
10, 15 usually. What?
Please don't throw up.
All right. You take care of yourself, Mikey. We'll all be back.
a steak.
I
Let me
wanna
fight my
know.
food.
I
Can you
agree.
show me
I wanna know
about
the strangers like me.
Some people don't like having like a bite in their food. You know what I mean? Like ice cream, they don't like having like M&Ms and stuff in it because they don't like that extra crunch. I like the crunch. I like fighting my
love
food a little bit.
crunch.
I love
Me
it.
See?
too. Doc gives me.
That's all- I like fighting my food in my mouth. I don't want it to choke me.
Mm-hmm. I'm a crunch kind of guy, bro.
Exactly. The crunch is important. That's why fried chicken is better than grilled. That's usually my reasoning, more than the taste.
That
I like the crunch.
superiority.
Sam, are
If
we
you
back
have-
on stream?
Yeah.
The fuck?
That's part of the reason why Chick-fil-A is mid. Their chicken ain't crunchy.
Bro, the Popeyes chicken sandwich, so
It's
much
so
better.
good.
Chick-fil-A could go
Oh
to hell.
my god. I mean, they probably are. Let's be honest.
Dude, I worked a meeting for them the other day, and it sounded like a cult.
Yeah.
I could not work for a company that is so heavily tied to a religion. It doesn't even matter if I follow the religion. That's no.
Yeah. That and
Oh,
just the fact that
man,
their
I wish I had
support is
Popeyes.
all going to like organizations that kill people like me.
Yeah.
Not a good
So
thing.
I don't. That being said, I did go to Chick-fil-A the other day, but I didn't spend money because the guy gave me a free card. So basically, I made them lose a little money.
Hell yeah.
And first of all, and second of all, their chicken sandwiches suck. They don't even put any sauces on like their regular chicken sandwiches. It's just the chicken and pickles. Get that shit out of here. Yeah, at least put mayo or something on it.
Exactly.
It's true.
Otherwise, it's just gonna be a dry ass sandwich.
You made Joyce like fuck.
Oh, she's gonna get in trouble.
Oh, Joyce, Joyce said. You said number
Let
11.
Joy say fuck. Alright, so welcome back everyone to the delayed introduction of the post break
We had our Chick-fil-A slander.
slander. This is just
Yeah,
true.
we slandered them. It's true, but it's still slander.
True. Now, if we wrote this all down, it would be libel.
Man, bite me, bro.
we are free.
The Popeye chicken sandwich. It's got a crunch, it's got texture and flavor.
I
Yeah, I will.
am not waiting 2 hours for Popeyes.
You have to wait 2 hours for Popeyes?
Yes. I had to wait
What
2
the
hours
fuck?
in line for Popeyes.
Thankfully, I don't have to here. It's kind of unfortunately, it's where we used to have a. I'm trying to think. What's the one Chinese Japanese style cooking? I can't remember which one it is.
KFC.
Where they cook the food in front of you.
Hibachi?
Yes, I couldn't think of the word.
It's okay.
Like, it used to be a hibachi place, and they shut down and moved to a different place because of COVID. And then Popeyes took it after like 2 years.
Mhm.
And now it's there. It's in a weird location, but it's nice because there's almost never a line. Anyway,
Yeah, anyways. Yeah, y'all come back. Ray makes their way down the stairs and back to the rest of the group where Arlos is winning a drinking contest and people are just
I
going,
can't
go,
be drunk,
go,
baby."
go, 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 go. Meanwhile, he's showing no signs of being drunk and Salty is just passed out on the floor. Like a little bitch he is. Anyways.
Easy dog, let's go.
I'm so glad I named him that.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Hence the references.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Ray's just like, okay, that was, a situation. I'd recommend you all check up on them in a little bit. Dragon that's she's your master anyways, you might want to go help her out when she wakes up. Oh, fine. As for the rest of you, just make sure they're okay. By the way, can I talk to any of you? I have a request I'd like to make. Oh, sure. Yeah, what was your question, by the way? Man, gotta love when two of the more talkative people are away from the group.
I mean, I could come back whenever and just let me know.
You could.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're drinking.
I mean, it's not like I'm stumbling over myself.
Yeah, I'm saying you're in the middle of competition. You may have won it already, but you're still in the middle of it.
Oh,
Fair enough.
dear. Oh. Can I take a look at it, perchance? Alright, Ray takes a look at it, just passes their hand over it, feeling all the cracks and all the chips that were made, the warping of the handle, just all the damage that was dealt to it. And yes, anyone wondering, TTS is down at the moment, so you're just gonna have to resort to reading Alina's words.
Not.
If you're
Also
not a
nuts.
Yu-Gi-Oh player or a Dragon Ball fan, you should be fine.
Yeah. If you're a One Piece fan, this should be easy.
I love reading subtitles. What do you mean One Piece? That could just be any anime.
One Piece is the longest running one. You would be dedicated. Anyways,
Yeah, I've watched and read it.
Ray looks up at you and hands it back. I would recommend taking that to, Bartholomew? He's somewhere near the edge of town. He runs the local blacksmith here. He might be able to do something about it. Oh, that's understandable.
Bartholomew, you mean two kobolds in a trench coat?
No, it's not them. I can guarantee it's not that. Although they might be able to help too. I mean, Tim and Hero both run the weapon shop. They probably have their own smithy in back. They can probably give it a look once over. Steam, you panic. Anyways. Yep. By the way, I've been meaning to ask, so over the last couple of days, I've been getting notes from, Herbert? You know, the one who runs the haberdashery near the, town entrance?
General Kenobi.
Yeti is back for war.
Yay!
My feet hurt.
No, Herbert, the tailor at the haberdashery.
Oh, Herbert, yeah.
You know, from Herbert's haberdashery.
I love that place.
The haberdashery, that is Herbert's. Herbert's haberdashery.
Yes,
Yes. The Herbert of haberdasheries.
that the haberdashery.
That is for
That's
Herbert.
specifically Bill. I'm just like Herbert.
Anyways, he's been coming to me, trying to see if I can work out any some problems that he was having recently with the Cry Color Factory. Unfortunately, I'm a little busy at the moment with everything going on. I was wondering if you and your party would be able to look into it. It shouldn't be all that bad. Just ask to speak to Annie. She tends to run it with her 2 daughters. And their son. Just tell them Ray sent you. Just want to see what the holdup is for. And fabric. Because Herbert's running low. By the way, he was also looking for all of you. Where have you all been for the last couple days, by the way?
A church thing.
For a few days?
Days?
Days. You have been here for a while. Is everything alright?
Were we really? And Kay's just like suddenly like, were we really gone that long?
Zell and Charles look at you and both give you a shrug.
Existential dread.
Huh. I guess Kaylin might have slowed down time in her world, but I have no way of confirming that myself. Either way, thank you for doing that and, well, helping out a seemingly good fellow, even if he's long past. But yeah, if you're available, I could use some help with the color factory.
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Yep. Remember, Annie of the color factory.
Got it.
And they give you directions to get to the color factory, which is just barely out of town a little bit. Also, Yeti, if you wanted to speak up at any point.
Yeah. Where was I?
You're all
we
back.
should probably inform Yeti what's happened.
Yeah,
Actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Oh, I just realized my fan was on my mic.
You're fine. So everyone, you're all at by the frost. You beat the coldest night. You kind of just sat in the corner watching Charles and Zell giving them an evaluation for future training. Zell got the final blow on coldest. Y'all came back, went to enjoy yourselves, looked for Penny. Penny's in bed, needed some help. Octad is currently in a nest wrapped around 5 eggs. And then, like, you came not long after we did break after that.
Yeah, so a lot happened.
Yeah.
I remember half of that.
Okay.
Penny
My
gave
memory is
baby,
not the
we beat
greatest.
we beat Knight.
You beat Knight, Penny
Understood.
have baby. Ray do ask question do.
All right, because my brain is burnt out from work. I almost said my work is burnt out from brain. If that gives you any indication.
Your work is burned out from brain. Got it.
Yes.
Felt it.
So yeah, if you're able to, I'd really appreciate you looking into Annie's Color Factory. Is there anything else you wanted to ask me? We don't gatekeep Yu-Gi-Oh! Unless you're playing the Gate Guardian deck. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bow.
Oh.
Or final/death.
Yeah, or final/death. Okay. Thank you again. And if you have any more questions, I'm in my office whenever you need me. Nice to have you back, by the way. And they go off back to their office. So what would you like to do now? As Arlos wanders his way back from the drinking marathon. Hi, how are you?
Yep. Hi, how are you? Wonderful weather we're having. I feel fantastic.
Do
What I
you
missed?
though?
Oh, yeah. The poor sap doesn't know that I physically can't get drunk.
You can't get. Well, I guess that would make sense, actually.
Can't be poisoned either. Alcohol is technically a poison. I'm not a zombie!
I
fuck?
request freedom,
Who's requesting freedom?
Isaac.
Why are you requesting freedom?
I don't like air gel too.
This is technically the binding of Isaac.
Good night, everybody.
And why should I free you?
Can I at least be put in air gel 1?
Which one's Air Jail 1?
The one closer to the ground.
Levels to it?
Someone put me
Hey.
higher.
Kay just picks Isaac up and, like, puts him in the front of his leather tunic again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind of just sinks in. Trying not to show his head.
Poor thing. One day you'll learn.
Right. No.
Whenever you
No,
start
then
leaving
it's
Fin-
fine.
Whenever you start leaving Finthras alone is the day I'll let you walk on the ground again.
You hear no noise coming from Isaac as he like sits there in contemplation.
No, Isaac. The way you keep messing with Fenthras, I will think that you had a little crush on her.
What the crush?
That's true.
By the way, you can't understand him. It's just Kay who could understand him.
There
So
you
it
go.
really does make it look like Kay is just talking to himself.
Bird's going
Sometimes.
crazy!
Never gonna happen, by the way. I should go switch out with Octa. Yeah. You,
Finthras, are you alright?
no,
Would you like me to leave Isaac his company?
no.
Panda, we're on stream.
Yep. Feather's hovering very close to the ground. In fact, so close that she's dragging her lower half along the ground. Goes up the stairs and goes towards Octad, who's in Penny's room, and just like boops you on the nose if you're asleep at all.
I am
Hey,
not asleep. I am wide awake.
hey. I'm swapping out for you
Oh.
because your party's gonna do stuff.
Are you big enough to keep the eggs warm?
I can do enough.
If anything happens to these eggs, you're in big trouble. Octot says with the most serious thing he's ever said to Fenthris, almost basically threatening them.
Look, as much as I don't like kids, I'm not gonna do anything to hurt them.
Better not. I'll eat you.
Yeah, you said that before.
He grabs Fenthris, like, aggressively.
Yeah.
No. I will eat you.
Okay, man. Jeez, back off.
He lets Fenthris go. Alright, I'll go see what the others are doing. Take care of them.
Jeez, don't be so aggressive about it. She kind of like noodles her way underneath the blanket that you picked yourself up from. Yeah, just wraps around the blanket. You can see her like frame wrapping around the eggs and just laying down. Blanket and all.
Well, they should be fine, right? They should be fine. They better be fine.
They better be fine. And you all watch as Octod comes down. How you walking, Octod?
I'm just walking normal.
Okay.
So coming down the stairs, like, hey guys, what are we doing? Do you guys need me for something? What are we doing?
You watch as Alina and Joy kind of make their way out of the inn, leaving you all together. After explaining what Ray explained to her.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I genuinely zoned out. I'm so sorry.
Ray requested that you all check out the Karai Color Factory, run by Annie.
Okay.
And yeah, just check out to see if what's going on, as Herbert's having issues with some fabric orders.
That seems like it should be easy peasy, no?
Yes, and Ray would do it normally, but they are a little busy at the moment.
When isn't Ray busy? They got a whole tavern to run.
You know, that is true. So, would you all like to wait for Alina and Joy, or are y'all just gonna head out to said Color Factory?
Well, there's strength in numbers, so I think we should wait.
Alright. Alright then. Alina and Joy, where do you two head first? Bartholomew's blacksmith? Didn't mean to make that alliteration, but okay, I guess I did. Or do you head to Hero and Tim's weapon shop? It's close enough. I don't have a spelling for it either. But you'll head over to the near outskirts of town where you run into the blacksmith as he's slowly hammering away at one of his own projects that he's working on. And you just kind of rap on the door frame behind him to get his attention as he kind of like stops mid-swing, puts his hammer down and just kind of looks at you after and just sinks his project into oil.
Can I help you?
You watch as this big lumbering minotaur kind of just turns around. Little lighter than he should be, but you know, he's doing good for himself. He's a little dirty from soot, but you know, working man. Working
Forgive me
minotaur.
for being forward, but may I pet your horns?
Sure. Just don't hurt yourself.
Arlos will go and pet the horns.
They're very nice, rigid. They're very well maintained. With a little bit of metal jewelry on them. Like kind of like bracers but for horns.
Nice. Man's got taste.
Thank you. I made them myself.
Like no less. Like no less. Okay, sorry about that. I just had to get that out of my system.
Everyone gets one at least. You know, so long as you're not making it like a habit or like using it as a way to put me down.
What? Why would I want to put you down? I just met you.
Well,
and this
you'd
is
be
crazy.
But here's my number. You'd be
I should
surprised at
call
what
you maybe?
maybe. You'd be surprised at what some people do when they run into like, say, a minotaur for the very first time. They're like, oh, it's either a big scary thing or, oh, look, it's big and docile. I should go pet it. Oh.
I didn't mean to offend.
No, I'm just giving you examples of like what some people would have done.
Oh, I feel bad now.
No, you're fine. Oh, Race NG, huh? Okay. Oh. Well, that's some pretty serious damage you got there. Well, it's nice to know that I'm not the only one you run into. Not many of us out there, of course, but, you know, it's an old tradition. Minotaur blacksmith, like, what are you gonna do? It's something I like, at least. But, this sword. You've done some serious work on it, I gotta say. This is not a good state. Lost control? Oh.
He gives you a once over, up and down, kind of like checking your frame, surprised at your seeming feat of strength.
That's... I'm sorry, but, for someone your size, I wouldn't expect them to... I don't know, throw the weapon like this into a wall. Let alone cause this sort of damage to it.
Won't let her stature fool you. She has angry mother strength.
You know what? That's fair enough. My mother was basically a raging bull whenever you ran into one of her little ones. Then again, we are raging bulls, so. That's pretty interesting. Y'all some kind of, what, lycanthrope? That's pretty interesting, actually. Never seen anyone with, like, basic just ears like that. At least, no, someone humanoid. That's quite a development, I must say. Well, so long as I guess Ray backs you up, I don't see no problems here.
She also has this. Arliss would gently yank her tail.
That's kind of rude. I wouldn't do that. Like, even if it's your friend, like, that's someone's body. You just kind of hurt them out of nowhere. I'm sorry. You let them treat you like that?
Just waiting for Elena to turn around and be like, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So this is kind of a recent development, I see. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes you just gotta set your own boundaries. Make sure y'all know what you're comfortable with, so you can continue being friends. Otherwise, situation might come up that not everyone's all right with, and not establishing the line of communication. Well, that can cause some issues, some chinks in your weapon, if you will.
He kind of like dinks on the sword a little bit.
Don't worry, that won't break it at all. I got persistent strength. It's taken me quite a while to do that, though. But speaking of this, I could probably... I can see what I can do about it. Now, I can just tell about a lot of you. You're adventurers, right? Because, if you're alright with it, I can take this weapon for a couple days and make sure it's back up to at least functionality to where it won't crumble on you. Otherwise, it might take a while for me to completely fix this, if I can. Because, I can see there's definitely magic in this thing. That's a given. And, I might be an expert with metal, but, not really an expert with magic, if I'm gonna be honest with you. That'll be more like, what? What's the name? The one who runs the jeweler shop. He tends to be a bit more of a magically inclined than, I am at least.
That's a good fella. Actually made me this necklace.
Yeah, I can see. That's definitely his handiwork. Oh, he's trying a new style, huh? Nice. He's putting in some of those recommendations I gave him. Good guy. He's new to town, actually. So, do make sure you patron him, because he's good people. I want him to stick around here.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's good to see folks like you trying to make sure that your fellow men are well taken care of.
I mean, we all gotta take care of each other, as well as we all gotta make sure we're all comfortable with each other, not have like unexpected hostility between a group of friends.
He looks between you and Alina.
Don't worry. He's
Be
fine,
happy.
buddy. I have no qualms with her. I just like messing with her. Is Octod with us too?
He should be.
I'll point to him too. I'm like, same with him. I like just messing with him.
And so long as you stay within your boundaries. All right.
I only promise to try.
But also, you said this is one of her works. This wouldn't be the other Minotaur, would it? Not to assume that she's a blacksmith or anything, but I mean, a Minotaur knows a Minotaur. Don't tell anyone else I said that. They will gore you like there's no tomorrow.
God damn it, Steam.
D&D.
From Kuro Village? Yeah, that place. Yeah, Kuro Village. The only other location you've been to so far.
Some village name here is crazy.
Mhm.
True, true. It's like the only like settlement place you've been to. Anyways,
Oh. Well, guess I'll have to head over to Kuro then. Sun Festival's gonna be over though. So, I'll find a reason to head over there. At the very least, get to see how another blacksmith works. Maybe trade a couple skills. Who knows? I like learning new things. Heck, I was actually working on a experiment over here, seeing if I can get some more sturdy fittings for this breastplate that I'm working on. Trying to get it to better maintain itself in combat. Figured I'd hammer it some special ways. But it's not done yet. Yeah, I don't know if she'd be appreciated at one of her works being this kind of condition. But, at the very least, I can get the blade actually working. Handle might not be as clean, gonna be honest. Probably not gonna be as clean. But yeah, I can do what I can. I'll definitely get the blade in order. And, yeah, take it over to the fellow when you're done. He can, probably get the enchantment back up to what it was. It's starting to wane a little bit. Here. I'll get started on it. How long y'all in town for?
As long as we need to be.
Ooh, only supposed to be here for a week.
All right, I'll work on this a bit. I'll try to finish this quickly. You're lucky I don't have any like important commissions coming up soon, so I'll get to work on this. All right, I'll try to minimize the time I take. You got something else to keep you safe out there? Because I don't want to leave you without a weapon. At the very least, give you a rental. Even if it's not magical. You're saying you use the bracer as a weapon, or is that needle on your finger? Because that seems a little impractical, if you ask me. I don't know, unless you train specifically to use that needle finger. I'm not a fighting expert. My expertise is just in metal. Oh, okay. didn't know can transform like that. That's a pretty nifty trick. Wonder if you can make any sort of weapon do that. It's something I'll have to ask the guy. Anyways, I'll get to work on this. You make sure you take care of that, alright? Well, so long as it keeps you safe, right? Should be fine. Plus, you got your friends to keep you in check. Just in case something does go bad. After all, that's what they're there for. To help each other out. It's appreciated. But, I'll let you know afterwards. And I'll talk to the other guy to see if he can work some of his magical magic. Alright. You all take care.
And he'll start to look at this and tentatively throw it into a fire. Watching as the fire suddenly turns blue. And he seems satisfied with that. So, what would you like to do now?
I suppose we should be on our way, huh?
Alright, so you all want to head over to the Cry Color Factory? Yeah. Alright.
Good.
That being settled, y'all start making your way out of town and down the road a little bit until you come to a decently bigger building that's just kind of sitting by itself, not too far away from town. If anything, it's like 20-minute walk. But this place seems a little isolated. There's a big sign on the front that says Color Factory, and you see like right in the top left of the C, there's KRAI written out. So you can tell this is definitely the Karai Color Factory.
I'd like to kick open the door.
Kick open the door? Okay, you kick open the door. As it just...
Annie, are you okay?
Huh? Who's calling me? Excuse me, that door is expensive. Can you not kick it later?
Fine, we'll do it. We'll do it the normal way when I leave. Ah, my ribs! That was unnecessary.
Nah, seemed fitted to me. What do you want? I'm busy.
Ray said you needed help.
Ray? Why would Ray send someone?
Kay just helplessly shrugs.
Ray wasn't looking for help themselves. They were more looking for help for Herbert, who
Oh,
was missing
right.
out on some shipments of fabric. Look, I don't know why that pesky business owner is sending people over. But I guess if you want some help to help out, if you want to see what's going on, I guess we can give you a tour.
A tour just for us?
Yep. So, I guess we'll start with me, front desk. Also, owner of Cry Color Factory. Annie Cry. Some people like to call me Annie Color.
God damn it.
Run this place with my 3 kids. Sanji, Dar, and Nietzsche.
I'm sorry. What are their names?
Oh, do you want me to say them in different order? Nietzsche, Sanji, and Dar. Nietzsche Cry, Sanji Cry, and Dar Cry.
Haha.
Doug.
Okay, so I'm not that shit crazy.
Oh, that's
Well,
debatable.
You were too fast with that.
Is it bad? I thought the names were gonna be Roy G. Biv.
No,
Damn it!
no. That's a good one.
Shit!
That's fine. But yeah, we're the owners of this place, and just we make sure everything's running as need to be. Why, is there anything you're interested in getting? Because I'll tell you, we're pretty backed up.
I was whispering, what are we here for again?
Ray said that Herbert needs some help with fabric shipments, which are coming from this location.
I'm so glad you said Herbert's name again, because my brain was like, Henry? Is that his name? Fucking Henry? I couldn't fucking think of it.
It's Herbert's haberdashery.
Yeah, yes.
Right.
I'm gonna make it canon that Kay can never remember the poor guy's name, so he gets called a different H name every time they run into each other.
Harold?
So what can I get you?
Mother want to speak up. One.
Henry?
Paris's haberdashery?
We're at to check. Oh, yeah, we're a little backed up at the moment. Got some, people not wanting to come into work. So, we've been having to deal with that and slow down because of it.
What exactly aren't they doing since they're not here?
Their jobs?
Thanks, I could have said that. I meant specifically.
Oh, I forgot to mention, the woman in front of you is an old, wrinkly goblin that's just sitting on a very tall stool behind the front desk.
I love her.
Do you?
Always watching, Wazowski.
Always
Do
watching.
you love Annie of Color?
I just want to make sure Annie's
Yes.
okay.
I'm fine, thank you.
No one gets so bad.
People just don't want to work nowadays.
These damn kids.
I tell you, they're all selfish, every single one of them.
Always on their.
Prioritizing their mental health, taking breaks whenever they want to. No one ever wants to work overtime.
That's literally what she says. No respect for the higher ups.
That one sounded personal, Crow.
Yeah, Crow, do you need to talk after stream?
That's capitalism,
I'm
baby.
good. Yeah, I'm good. Fuck the corpo.
What do you mean, Big Corpo? This is a color factory. Run by
Got any
Annie.
reds?
There's a 2-year wait on red.
2 years?
Yeah, we do priority shipping. It depends on who's asking first and for when they need it and how big of a shipment they need.
You know what? That's valid.
That's business.
Kay just does not understand anything about business.
Also, it makes it kind of funnier that in a separate campaign I'm currently in, I play a rock gnome who is a co-owner of an industry.
Rock and stone.
Rocking stone.
I know it is called Gillicum Industries.
So, is there anything in specific you were looking for?
You wouldn't happen to have anything for... What's the bloke's name?
Herbert.
Herbert? Okay. Herbert's haberdashery? Question mark?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Well, that's
But then-
unfortunate.
Why are we here?
Well, Ray said Herbert's been bothering her about something to do with this lovely establishment, and that he needs something, or he ordered something, and asked if we could help. Also, he was looking for us, apparently.
I mean, the clothes are done. We were gone. Actually, Arliss wouldn't know that many. He wasn't there.
Alina knows, but not sure if she explained it to anyone.
Are you sure you don't have anything for Herbert?
That's been a couple days. Look, I'm busy here, so if you're just gonna waste my time with pointless questions, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Pointless?
Yes,
mean,
pointless.
How is it pointless when Ray told us to come here? I'm pretty
Um,
sure you know Ray.
I don't care about anyone named Ray. Look, I'm a busy woman. I got this place to run, and you're taking up some of my precious time. So unless you got
Precious
some more,
time. Are you
you
sure you have much of that left?
wanna
Arlo!
say something, kid?
Wait, what? Well, if you need me, I'm gonna take a look around.
Not without any supervision. Dar, get over here. You watch as this stumpy, like, round, very smooth-looking goblin comes walking through the door, kind of dumpy, just like,
Hey, I'm Dar. Hey, Mom.
hello,
Am I supposed to watch
Dar.
this guy?
yeah, you can watch this guy. Don't let him get out of sight.
Okay.
Dar must be
So what
protected at
happens
all
if I
costs.
What happens if I leave this site?
You don't want to know.
I kind of do.
I don't find them again.
You watch as Annie kind of like pinches the bridge of her nose at Dar saying that.
Going to see if Zell. Do they notice Zell at all?
Zell's kind of hiding behind you, if anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get Zell to go on a sneak. Maybe stealthy stealth.
Go ahead and roll your stealth.
Come on, little buddy. Yeah.
You watch as he takes a moment to, as you signal to him to kind of look around, a moment of your conversation with Annie and Dar to slip into one of the shadows and kind of disappear from sight.
Zell stays making me so proud.
So,
Okay.
you want me to give you a tour?
Wait, what?
Hey, I'm Dar.
Hello, Dar.
Hey.
I suppose you're going to be monitoring me the entire time I'm here, yes?
Mostly.
Mostly. So what is
Hey.
it that you do here?
I watch.
That's it?
Yeah.
So, while your mother is complaining about being the only one that does something, you're just here watching.
They don't trust me to do stuff.
Oh.
I'm a pat his head. You seem like a good kid.
I'm 30.
You're what?
I'm 30.
That's what you get for assuming shit, Arlos.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We're the same age, but that seems rather condescending now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you want to be the first.
I'll give Delilah 2 gold. That was awfully rude of me.
What's this?
It's money?
What's that?
You don't know what currency is.
What's that?
Thing. Stop. You.
Yeah, you
Use
stop
this
distracting him with
much.
pointless stuff.
Okay, well, listen. You use this to buy goods.
He doesn't need to know anything that you give him. Just do what you gotta do. Don't stay out of his sight.
I will use prestidigitation to make like a little toy for him. See if I
lasts
can
6
distract
seconds.
him with that. 6 seconds is all I'll need to start looking around.
You are all just in the front lobby, by the way.
Fuck. Damn it. Alright, fine, I'll just start looking around.
So, where do you want to go first?
Well, you know this facility better than any of us. Where would you like to show me first?
I can show you where I stay.
Perhaps later. I mean more so of the facility, not really your quarters.
Okay. Well, this is the lobby.
I'm well acquainted with the lobby. Yes, it's very beautiful.
That's my mom's desk.
Poor goblin.
And
Is it made of mahogany?
what's that?
Never mind. Next.
And that's the door where my mom doesn't let me go.
Doesn't let you
She
go.
doesn't let you go.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
I'm told to stay in the office.
You're told to stay. Where's the office?
It's over there.
He points to the door that he just came out of.
That's where I stay.
Oh. I see. That's what you wanted to show me. It was the office. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were trying to like show me like your room or something. I didn't want to actually go in there, but there seems to be
Yeah.
something that could be of use in there.
Yeah.
So I'll follow you there. Sure.
Okay.
Question is this is for you, Sammy. Is the door guarded by anything?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to try and have Zell sneak over there and try to pick the lock, if it is locked.
Oh, the door's like on the back wall behind, or that door. Okay, the door's on the back wall, like the wall behind Annie,
And now look at the big
but
baby.
like also behind the desk
Wow.
itself, which kind of like stretches up to one side of the room.
Sneak past.
You would have to. there's also another door next to the desk where that just seems to be like a double door instead of a single door.
Okay, I'll have him go through that door to see if he can sneak through there.
Alright. He goes up to the door and just kind of pushes it open and slides through. He finds himself in the back room. Not the back rooms! The back room.
Okay.
That's when you
Miss
flip out of bounds.
Annie. Oh, okay.
Yeah, what do you want?
You say you work here all by yourselves and someone else comes here, right?
No, my daughters run this place too.
Oh.
I have a lot of work to do though.
Is there anything I can do to help you? Take a load off or anything like that? You might
Hell
need
would
a
I
break.
need your help for?
What?
You work here?
I was a little rude to you earlier, and I thought I'd make amends by at least assisting you some way.
Roll a persuasion check.
Are those two pretty persuasive sometimes? No, the fuck we're not. Oh my lord. Wait, I'll use my inspiration.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, that's better.
What, you looking for a job or something?
At least for while I'm here. You look like you can use a break.
Hmm.
You're working very hard. Go get yourself a nice meal or something.
Dark, go back to the office.
Okay.
Kind of waddles back to the office. Nietzsche, Sanji, get over here. Yes, mother. You watch as two, like, lanky but kind of tall looking goblins kind of walk in. One almost a perfect photocopy of the other. Their nose seems to be just like elongated and dropped down to a point. Their smile kind of like non-existent at this point. Is there something you can do for you, mother? Yeah, we got a new one. Take this guy in the back. Ah, Nemi, thank you for the rain, everyone. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good time. If you need to take care of yourself, feel free to do so. We're just playing some D&D. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, a new one? What, is it all of them? No, just this one. She points to Arlos. Okay. Nietzsche, why don't you show this gentleman the Silk Room? I think he'll enjoy that one.
Don't like how they say that.
Yeah, sister. Let's take him to the Silk Room. And
What's in the Silk Room?
Oh, you'll find out. They lead you into the back. And with that, that is where we're not going to call it.
Oh, thank God.
No. I'm just going to bring you to a new map.
The JoJo's to be continued still in Chozo.
You should be able to see over here.
Yeah. Oh.
Well,
And you-
isn't that unfortunate?
As you enter the back room. No, Octad, you're not in the back room.
It was nice knowing you, Arlos. It truly
What?
was.
Bye, my friends.
You actually managed to get yourself into a hallway. This is the entrance, by the way.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't our spot.
Yeah. Let me get some goblins for you real quick.
Goblins.
Myself into these lessons.
You truly did do this to yourself this time.
By the way, you can also put Zell down. And just like get a brief idea of where he is. So he'd be like up on the ceiling over here. Alright, follow me.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do I take note of the summoning circle thing that they have going on there?
Oh, that's just for decoration. Nothing to worry about.
I
What they
want
always
to
say.
see if they're lying.
Would you like to roll an insight to see if they're lying, or an arcana check to see if the summoning circle is actually a thing?
I would like to see the Arcana. Yeah, baby.
It's not a summoning circle as much as it is a protective ward. Like a first stop to put any uninvited guests, prevent any uninvited guests from entering this area.
Oh God, what are they protecting themselves from?
After me, come on. Time's a wasting.
Ah. We'll make note of that. Is this blood on the floor?
No, no.
It's ketchup.
It's paint. It's paint.
Paint.
You know, red
Right.
dye and the like. Yeah, red dye.
So, might I ask, what is your guys' favorite color?
Oh, I love red. Me too. Though, not as much as purple.
Yeah, it's like bright red, dark red, like what?
I love the bright, kind of metallic red. Reminds me of blood.
Ah. I see.
Is there anything else the rest of you would like to do in the meantime?
Kay is very
I'm-
worried for Arlos.
I'm having Roll20 issues at the moment, so no.
Uh-oh.
I'll be fine. Don't worry about me.
I'm worrying about you.
I was about to say,
Oh, no.
I'm worrying. Don't tell me not to worry. I'm a natural worrier.
I have anxiety.
It's fixed.
Yay!
Yay!
Same.
Felt that.
Come on. Don't dawdle.
Modeling's not really in my nature. More of liking to get things done.
Yeah. We'll see it when we'll believe it when we see it.
I mean, I'm still waiting to know what the hell it is I'm supposed to be doing now.
You'll find out when we get there.
That doesn't reassure me at all. Sure.
Shouldn't.
What do you mean by that?
Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
You forgot to find your paperwork, Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski!
You hear her rap on the door a few times before you hear some clicking and unlocking. And she kind of just steps through. Let me reveal this whole room real quick. Doop-a-doop-a-doo.
I'm not gonna lie, this entire scene. Holy shit! This entire scene is playing out like SpongeBob and Patrick going through the perfume department.
Oh, it smells like it too.
Well,
In this room, you just get a cacophony of different smells and colors and just all sorts of sensory overload in this place.
lovely.
Oh, it looks like we got a new one, do we? Yeah, we're bringing this one to the Silk Room. Oh, good. We need a new one, anyways.
Might I ask what happened to the old one?
Enough questions. Come on.
Don't get any bright ideas.
You know, usually people make that sound like a threat.
Good.
I'm assuming it was this guy that said it, the one with the
Yep.
shield. Okay.
I'm just gonna drag us all to that side. We got a new one for the Silk Room. A new one, eh? Alright. Good luck with you. To that door. That's where you'll be working.
They're kind of bossy, you know that? I'm supposed to be helping you guys
They
out.
slam the door behind you.
What the fucking hell? That's how they treat guests. Jesus, I really hate to see how they treat strangers. Wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
Wait a minute.
What?
No, no, no.
What? It's the
Arliss will
Silk Room.
inspect the silk.
Okay. Roll a nature check.
No.
It is exactly what you think it is.
Something that he's fucking.
It's spider
Wait.
silk.
Oh, right, I
And
suppose.
it's everywhere.
Well, hopefully everyone else is having an easier time than me.
Meanwhile, in the lobby. What?
Okay, kind of.
Mhm.
Okay, just
So
leans
what kind of
over to
sandwiches you
Akshad.
guys like?
We don't do sandwiches here.
What do you do?
What do I look like? A dictionary?
I asked you what you eat.
Food.
You're no fun to talk to.
I've been told that before.
You're kind of a huge dick.
Okay, lightly bongs Octod on the top of the head, like, shut up.
I asked them what kind of sandwiches he likes. He asks, they are two sandwiches.
I'm
Like,
trying to remember
what
where
kind
am
of
I
sh-
again?
You're in the lobby of Cry Color Factory.
Right, guys.
Yeah, everyone but Arlos is there, and Zell.
And then I ask him what kind of food he wants. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Get over yourself, dude. I'm just asking a question."
He?
Oh, can I have Zoe go back to the group?
Sure. I will need a new stealth check. When he gets to Nichi and Sanji.
Wait, what? Did they walk past? Oh, they
Yeah.
just walked past.
Yeah, they walked.
Come on, little buddy. You've been doing good so far. Come on, make Papa proud. Yes!
And the other one. Okay. Zell makes it through the doors. And he thinks no one saw him.
Oh. I like the way you said that.
Good. So, everyone else in the lobby, you're just kind of wondering, waiting as Arlos is being taken to the back, and after a minute, Kay, you feel some claws on the back of your leg as as Zell clutches your leg.
Kay kind of jumps for a second and looks down and is like, "What's up, little buddy?"
Would you like to talk for him, Arlos?
Oh, usually you let you do that, but sure.
He's like, it's what you know.
They took him.
Hey, like, his eyes widen and he quickly kneels down and he's like, "What do you mean they took him?"
They locked him in the room in the back. There was a lot of them.
Roll a perception check, Joy.
That's no good.
No. You do not hear this. In fact, it barely even gets to Charles, who's like right next to Kay. As Zell is very soft spoken. It's good.
Kayla. Oh, God. Kay's just gonna slowly stand up and push Charles and Zell behind him and then pulls Alina gently by the back of her shirt. And he's gonna be like, motion to her to like lean down because fucking Bird is short.
Do we have an issue? Because if you do,
No,
I
not at
recommend
all.
you take it outside.
I can take you outside.
You wanna go, Kobold?
And
Yeah, you want a sandwich? No, probably not, huh?
No, you probably would. 'Cause that's what your kind eats, doesn't it?
You don't even know what a sandwich is, do you?
Yeah, I know what a sandwich is.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's a sandwich then?
it's a piece of bread with toppings.
It's actually 2 pieces of bread, idiot.
Not always. That's a closed sandwich. An open-faced sandwich has one. Idiot.
You make a fair argument, dumbass.
Isn't it just a taco without the tortilla?
That's also a sandwich.
when Alina leans down, Kay is gonna be like, "Okay, so Zell just told me they took Arlos and locked him in a room."
Oh no.
See, there's more of them back there, though. I don't know how many there are. I don't know if we can take them all.
Do the thing. Well then, should we do the thing? Or shall we do the thing? To give people context who are listening. Rubber room. It's a silk room, actually. A silk room with spiders. or something. I don't know.
Okay, fine. Fair.
And most I would have said you all were able to get a short rest in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very true. Why does he always get himself into these situations?
Arliss
And
will
I c-
sneeze.
You hear Bartholomew in the back of your mind.
Yo, make sure you take care of each other. Care of each other. Care of each other.
Care of each other. Okay, just the echo growing just. Mordred asks how many hit die for a short rest again?
Um, it's up to your maximum. You pick roll, add your constitution, and you heal that. You can also just press the short rest button on Beyond. It should be at the top of your sheet. The campfire icon. Yeah, that's how short rest work. You roll a number of hit dice, and that's how much you heal for a short rest. As opposed to Baldur's Gate, where it's just, yeah, half your hit points, that's fine. If you want. Doesn't have to be all. It can be. Yes, I'm just saying you can decide how many you use. Ah, you roll a single hit die and get 2.
Oh god, excuse me. I'm dying over here.
Don't.
But it's fun, Sam.
Don't die.
You can't stop me.
I will do everything I can to stop you. Fiend.
You're not my mom.
No. I'm your god mommy. Nice. Heal 32. That's what GM stands for. The more you know. Cool. Then you kill a max.
I'm being spammed.
Anyways, now that you're healed, what would you like to do? How would you like to go about this madness?
It kind of like looks away and then looks to Alina and is like, I have an idea. It might be a stupid idea, but I have an idea.
I don't like the sound of this.
Well, we have to get back there, right?
you suggesting we offer to work too?
Yes. Or we tell Octod to break down the door, and quite frankly, I don't know which one causes less damage at this point, to us
Break
or
down
the
the door?
surrounding areas. No, Octod, you don't hear this. I'm technically whispering.
You're stage whispering. You're stage whispering.
I had to move my mic away, so I can't technically whisper.
Oh, that's so red.
Alternatively, I could just sound more quiet by speaking normally and turning down my gain a lot.
Man, I wish mine worked like that, but no.
That's how an audio interface works.
Mm.
I too would commit crimes.
She's gonna suspect something otherwise. Yeah, unless you break down the door, she's gonna suspect something. She's not gonna suspect you breaking down the door for infiltration reasons.
Octod, buddy, pal.
Friendo. Ignore the god. Do the thing. Never mind. Just
Yeah.
saying do the thing.
I can't. Penny's not here.
No,
Not her.
Octod, you see that door back there? And Kay points to the one Arlos went through.
Uh huh.
We need you to break it down.
On it. What do you want to roll? Athletics or just a strength?
Athletics.
And ignore the old crony behind the counter because
Got it.
they
Alright.
took Arlos.
So, you kick the doors down and open, and these two kind of just go splat in different directions. Not like dead, but you kind of knock the door off its hinges.
I was made for this. Breaking down doors.
Oh, great. We're dealing with this then. Fine. Have it your way. Roll for initiative, everyone. Also, put yourselves up here. Except you, Arlos.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh god, Charles.
Charles, why are you so big all the time?
He enters the room with a huge aura.
It's just his aura at this point. It's not even like his physical form.
Medicine.
God.
He's gonna have a
He's got-
stand, and it's gonna be his beast form.
You're just gonna be the mom at the desk.
I think we're missing an Alina.
And Alina and a Joy. There's Alina. There's Joy. Let me get the roll counter up and clear it off. Oh my god.
No,
Hold on.
say,
Hold on. Hold on. I got this. I got this. I got this.
holding.
Yeah. Arlos, also roll for initiative.
Oh, I thought it wasn't me. Okay.
Well, I had to clear out the thing. You can edit it in there by writing it yourself if you are so kind enough.
Gotcha. What the fuck? Get together. There we go.
You know what? Actually, we'll roll initiative next time. Because that's what we're going to call it for the night.
Ah,
God damn it!
Maybe next time you.
Yeah. Because it's already getting late.
Yeah, and my brain is just not functioning right now.
It's alright, Yeti.
I am in between awake and asleep.
But yeah, thank you everyone for showing up tonight and for hanging out. Nemi, thank you so much for the raid. And I hope everyone both enjoyed the church and also Annie Color.
Just wanted to see if Annie was okay, bro.
Not anymore.
Clearly, no.
Nor are Nichi and Sanji. They're in deep shit right now. But I'm Tish. But yeah, thank you Extreme for helping me with this really cool idea. Or at least inspiring it. Cause God, it's funny. At least to me. But yeah, speaking of the people who have who have to go through this mess, who are you?
I am the mini Yeti. I'm playing Urgai the Tortall Monk. I plan on going live either Thursday, Friday, or actually setting up a schedule next week. I know I keep saying I'm going to go live. I do plan to actually do it. It's just I haven't had the drive to do it in a little bit. There's details about. Eeny, miny, doc.
Wait, what?
It's your turn.
You heard him.
Outro yourself.
Oh man, I was zoned out for a bit there. I heard the outro and I just didn't process that we were done.
Yep.
Brain broke. 5G struck strong. Anyway, I'm the Pixel Doctor. I played Octod, the adorable kobold. And I am probably streaming tomorrow, maybe trying to finish up Smash Melee. Unlocking stuff and whatnots. Great.
God damn it.
I chose Mikey before, so.
Fair enough. Hey everybody, my name is Kitty Makoto. I played Arlos, the Hexblade Warlock, and I'm aiming to be Employee of the Month. Actually, I don't know. These working conditions seem kind of jank, but we'll see.
Nice.
Some could say
I
this
plan
is
on-
a dark company.
Feeling like one.
Did you
I
get the
was
Lethal
gonna say
name?
Lethal
Company,
Company. I was gonna
even?
guess Lethal Company. Yeah.
No, it's a dark company. Karai is Japanese for dark.
Oh.
Damn.
I don't get it.
Okay, do you know anything about... I'll tell you after stream.
Alright.
Yeah, I'll eventually get back to streaming at some point. I just haven't really been feeling it. We have to finish Bloodborne. I'll probably do it sometime this week.
Boy, you gotta.
I know.
Blood-
I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
Where did you leave off?
Werewolf.
No. I don't know.
The other
Where
werewolf.
we killed the giant, like, skeleton meatball looking thing where the witches were like shooting fire at us and stuff like that.
The one
Oh,
reborn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one reborn.
Did all that, and we did something else after that. I can't remember what it was. It's been a while.
Base Bloodborne's pretty short if you know what you're doing. That's about the halfway point.
I was at the last headstone. What?
I said about. I could be wrong.
Oh,
I've only played it once, so I don't remember correctly.
fair enough. I'll double check after this. Mikey, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Cosmos Keeper, aka Karen. I don't know when I'm gonna be streaming again because my internet's been a piece of shit. Again. I'm also revamping my design again. Haha. Because I hate myself.
Never satisfied.
No. Unfortunately. But you guys can follow me on Twitter at Cosmos_Keeper. Or my art Twitter, which is linked in the bio.
Man,
Mordred, go.
We're all off today.
I'm Mordred once again, unsure when I'll come back to streaming, just haven't really felt up to it either. Sammy, go.
Hi everyone, I'm Sammy, your GM for the night, your variety VTubing cat of all time, and no, not variety anymore. It's just TTRPGs. Well, shit. Well, your
You'll get back to variety.
We
That's
found our
it.
niche.
And thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you everyone so much for coming, hanging out. For the raid, Nemi, thank you. And yeah, I hope you all have a good night. Take care of yourselves. And remember, Kaylin's watching
That's
you.
just a theory.
A game!
Let me check for a target if we don't have one.
Yeah.
And now I'm sad.
I cried at that last theory episode.
Rest
I
in
haven't
peace.
watched it.
Ah,
I don't know if I can.
That ending.
Rest in peace.
He's not dead!
by
At
the
least
way-
he's- Oh,
So I was gonna say, I know this is gonna sound off topic, but Tobuscus started uploading again.
Tobuscus!
Why?
Uh,
Well, you can have his sword. Sword, his diamond sword. You cannot afford his diamond sword.
I was just never a fan of Tobuscus. I don't know why.
I was a fan of Tobuscus years after he stopped uploading.
Downloading.
Years after he stopped downloading music off the internet. Illegal. No, yeah.
Where's the phones?
We're all tired. Our brains are not braining in the brain department.
5Gs.
The 5Gs.
big in the brain.
I feel like Pinky. Not so much the brain.
One of them is smart and the other is insane. I'm pretty
I'm
sure
one of those
Pinky was,
things.
I'm pretty sure Pinky was the smart one and Brain was the insane one.
No, Pinky was the insane one. Because he would always refer to him as the brain. Stars.
I put it in the roll 20 for spelling.
Oh, thank you. That's what that was. I am not paying attention to anything of how brains work. Yeah.
Brain turning slowly into soup, goop, and mush.
I can just do that. No, stop. Enter. Okay. Looks like we're gonna be rating Cursed Steep. I have no idea who that is. But excited to see about them. Wait, invalid username. Mordred? Did you spell that right?
I have that.
You got one, Doc?
It's the same person. It's a capital K. Everything else is spelled correctly.
That shouldn't have affected it then.
2 I's, 1 R, 2 S's, 2 E's. Yeah, you spelled it right other than the capital.
Invalid username.
Which? You cuck.
She is a good friend of mine who actually put out amazing news recently.
There she is. Okay. Looked her up on my phone instead. So yeah, we're going to Curse Deep. Hope I pronounced that right. Thank you everyone for showing up again. There are raid messages, as per usual. There's the one for followers. And if you are a subscriber, if you are of the subscriber variety, you can go ahead and copy paste that one. And we will be on our way. Once again, thank you everyone for showing up. Really appreciate you. Thank you to all my lovely players for another great episode. even though none of our brains were on today.
I mean, mine was until. Yeah.
I was in a fog before the session started.
Somehow got myself kidnapped.
That
Just like
voluntarily.
Boston,
My brain was on what are you talking about,
feel
Sam?
Mine wasn't.
I'm awake, I promise.
Yeti, go to bed.
I
Okay.
swear to drunk I'm
You
not
sound
God.
dead.
I feel bad.
Uh-oh.
Well, go be dead in bed.
I was working outside all day and they didn't have water out there for us.
Oh no.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure that breaks some sort of workers' guideline.
Yeah.
No,
You're on
water
strike.
I'm gonna send you. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good raid.